Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Paschatya Desatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shaddaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So this morning I was, a couple hours ago, actually 2.5 hours ago, I was giving a class in Portuguese, and it was the story of Narada Muni. And it was so interesting when it dawned on me that Narada Muni had achieved bhava in what seems to be maybe 4 months or 6 months or 8 months, which is, in our experience, kind of unprecedented, isn't it? You know, you move in the temple in January, by May, you're exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. That would be unusual, right? And we would be suspicious of anyone, wouldn't we? If somebody's manifesting very advanced stages in such a short time, we would be suspicious. But there are examples of this in our scripture. There are examples because it shows that it's possible. So I was meditating on this because on Wednesday, we were talking about the fact that we have to get used to the feeling that we're really not advancing. You remember that class? I just said, well, you know, the more you advance, the more you think you're not advanced. And it's not like that feeling is going to go away. But what I didn't mention is that, or maybe it's not clear, that just because you feel you're not advancing doesn't objectify whether or not you're advancing or not. And in many cases, it objectifies that you are advancing because you feel you're not. But the point is that how quickly you're advancing is not always perceptible to you, because as you advance, you may feel you're not advancing. So I was thinking about specifically this problem that we all have, that we feel we're not advancing. And actually, some of us are right, we're not. So it works both ways. You know, you may be advancing and feeling you're not, and you may not be advancing. And that's why you feel you're not advancing, because you're right, you're not advancing. And so I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but in the case of Narada Muni, reading that story and thinking about it, I began thinking, how was it that he advanced so quickly? You know, if you have a friend who's a homeless guy, then 6 months later, he's living in a mansion, you're probably going to want to find out, how did you do that? And can I do it also? Of course, we're speaking about people in general. Maybe you don't care about living in a mansion, but you understand the principle. How did you do that? That happened so fast. So I think it's a natural question. Narada Muni did it very quickly. How did he do it? Well, if you read the story, you read about all the qualities he had. And he had all the qualities you need to be perfectly situated to advance. And he was self-controlled, he was gentle, humble, and served the sadhus very humbly, respectfully, listened to them, didn't challenge them, didn't try to give his opinion. He was in the perfect situation. He had all the qualities necessary to advance. And that's why he advanced so quickly. Right? I mean, what else? You know, I mean, it wasn't like random. He had to have some qualification. So then I was thinking about that. And maybe one of the best examples we can use is japa, because Japa can be an amazing journey. We can go from 0 to 108 with good japa in 1 round or less, isn't it? Or maybe go from 0 to 0 in 16 rounds with bad japa. So we understand as not the fault of the holy name. Holy name is Chintamani, Nama Chintamani Krishna. It's non-different from Krishna. The problem is with us. As I once famously said, or maybe infamously said, I said, there may be many, many causes for your success or failure, but the main one is you. So I think that's easy to understand with japa, isn't it? Because we're all given the same mantra. Like there's no advantages in ISKCON, like you got a secret mantra and I didn't. Yeah, well, I'm friends with the temple president, No, everybody gets the same mantra, right? So if everyone gets the same mantra, the same process, everything the same. So if someone is advancing faster than someone else, it's not like someone's cheating or we're favoring someone, we only like white male men, so they get to advance, and everybody else we don't like, so too bad, your mantra is not going to work. No, it's not like that. So then I thought it's wise to look at Narada Muni and think, okay, he went from 0 to bhava in 4 to 6 months. What am I doing wrong? I'm still like at 0.00001 after so many years. What am I doing wrong? Did you ever think like that before? Instead of thinking what's wrong with me, as we would naturally think, we should think, what am I doing wrong? Because I think some of us think, well, something's wrong with me because I'm not advancing. So if something's wrong with me, there's not much I can do about it because I am me. And if me isn't good, that's just, I got a bad deal here. But if it's something I'm doing wrong, I can correct that, right? So I think that's the best question. What am I doing wrong? Or what can I do better? We don't want to be negative. What could I do better? So then I was thinking, as you know, I do a lot of thinking. As you can tell, my mind is always analyzing. It's just, that's the way I was born. It analyzes, which is good if you're a teacher. You don't have to prepare for class because your mind will just analyze all the time. You just can talk. So it's good. So I take advantage of it. So I was analyzing. And I think we all know that some unhealthy people who are anemic, eat very healthy diets. Have you seen that? You go to the doctor, they do the blood test, and they come back and they say, you're low in protein. And you say, but all I eat is peanuts and raisins 3 times a day. How could I be low in protein? A pound of peanuts has more protein than a pound of meat. Did you know that? Or many times more. And you're thinking, I'm overdosing on protein. How is it that I have no protein? So you tell that to the doctor, and the doctor goes, oh, must be that you're not digesting protein. And he checks you out and he goes, oh, your body's not producing this enzyme that breaks down the peanuts and digests the protein. That's the problem. So the problem is not that you didn't have the protein, the problem is you didn't digest it. So the problem is not that we don't have the process of Krishna consciousness, right? We have the holy name, we have everything, but we may not be digesting it, right? So I thought these are good thoughts for reflection, because we all want to become more Krishna conscious and we want to do it immediately. We want to be pure devotees like right now, isn't it? There's a saying that some people want to lose weight, but they don't want to go on a diet and exercise. Some people want to be rich, but they don't want to work. Some people want a PhD, but they don't want to go to school. And some people want to be advanced in Krishna consciousness, but they don't want to do the work, something like that. Does that make sense? Yes, makes sense to you all. Makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. Yeah. So I think that's an important, it's an important distinction to make. And that if I want to make more advancement, then I need to look at what I'm doing every day. I need to look at the quality of my sadhana, my service, my attitude. Because if I get that in order, if I improve that, my advancement will be quicker. So the last class we talked about how it's discouraging when you don't see you're advancing. But if you do the process well, you will see that you're advancing. And so Narada Muni, he can be a good example for us, that he advanced very quickly and he was very young, so it is possible. Maybe not bhava in 6 months, but we can go beyond where we are now, but we have to do things a little better. We have to think in better ways. So that's where I wanted to start today's class, kind of taking off from the last class and just underscoring this point that just because you feel you're not making advancement doesn't mean you're not. And so that's also something we have to get used to. Because as we know, how we perceive things is not necessarily how things are. It's just our perception of them. And so you ever had a fear about something that was so outrageous it could never happen, but you were all worried, you were very worried about it, maybe even traumatized by it? Did that ever happen to you? What if this happens? Oh no. And it's never happened before, but you're fearful that it's going to happen. So sometimes we see things in ways which are not in line with reality. And so sometimes we can see our spiritual life like that, and we could discourage ourselves by thinking, I'm not making advancement, when actually we are. And that's the paradox. That the more you become qualified, the less you will feel qualified, which is a sign that you're becoming more qualified. But it doesn't always feel like you're becoming more qualified, but you are. Now, one of you are going to say, but what if I'm actually not qualified? But that's also an option, that could be true. But I'm just making the point that you will feel that way even if you are, and perhaps even more so. But it doesn't mean you're not advancing. And it doesn't mean, even if you say, no, but I'm not advanced. Okay, but we can go with that idea. But it doesn't mean you can't be advanced tomorrow, right? Well, Prabhupada uses the example of Prahlad Maharaj. And there's a verse in the second canto of Bhagavatam, Ahaituki apratiyata, that devotional service is causeless, meaning there's nothing material you need to become advanced. So, we all come from different material backgrounds. So you don't need a high IQ. You don't need to be born in a certain kind of family. You don't need certain religious upbringing, a certain level of wealth, education, and so forth. That's what it means, ahaitukiya pratyata. And if we understand that there's nothing material that enhances bhakti, although we can use material things to enhance our service, material things in and of themselves have nothing to, are not causes of bhakti. And so when you boil it down, the Shastra says the cause of bhakti is the mercy of the pure devotee. But then if you boil it down further, how do you get the mercy of a pure devotee? You just hang around and do nothing? I don't think so. You do something, right? So I have a question for you, ladies and gentlemen, or ladies and one gentleman, or I don't know how many gentlemen are out there on Facebook. I can't see. I have a question and I already know the answer. Do you want mercy? Of course you do. Okay, so maybe you should think how to get it, because the more you get, the more you'll advance, right? And it's so important to understand that the only obstacle to getting that mercy is, what's the only obstacle? Who can say? Yeah. Point at yourself if you haven't done it yet. That's the obstacle, yeah. And although this is obvious, what I have discovered in my gracefully growing old in my life, all right, I'm not that old, but compared to you, I'm old. Compared to a 108-year-old, I'm still young. So I completely forgot. What was the last thing I said? Where was I going? I got sidetracked by my jokes. What was the last thing I said? Tell me. Honorata, you should know. The very last thing. Someone tell me. You have to tell me, not chat me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah. So I said I was gracefully growing old. What I've seen in my life is that even when something doesn't appear that we have any control over the outcome, the worst thing we can do is to sit there and blame someone or some situation. So let's say it's true, I had no control of the outcome. I just went outside and it started raining. Now I'm wet. Okay, I don't control the weather. I'm not Indra. But the point is, at that point, I can go back inside and change my clothes and get an umbrella, right? I can always do something. And the worst thing we could ever do is complain, because, devotional service is so hard. You ever complained about sadhana bhakti? Have you ever done that? So hard to chant my mind. Complain about your mind. Why do I have to chant 16? Complain about the number, Do we have to read Bhagavatam? Can't I read some other book, So it's the worst thing we can do is blame and complain, because there's no solution in it. And so if I'm not happy with my level of Krishna consciousness, the best thing I can do is think, okay, I need more mercy. How can I get it? What can I do to get more mercy? And start thinking, well, hearing, association, the holy name, kirtan, my attitude. You just go down the list and you start to see there's so many little knobs I could dial in to a higher number, isn't it? So if you want to advance faster, don't sit around and complain that it's so hard, because that's not going to help you, right? Have you ever done that? Yeah. Have you noticed? It's kind of depressing to do that, isn't it? I often give the example that where I lived on the bottom. Well, my street was here. I'm trying to describe this. I guess I'm tired or something. And this is my street. And then there were two streets coming down that would go up a few blocks. You could say I lived on the bottom of a hill. I mean, in my mind, I don't have this vision of living on the bottom of the hill, because we weren't living in a forest. It's all paved. And when I look across the street, I don't see the hill, but actually there was a hill. So we lived on the bottom. And the main thing I did when I was younger, like, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, was ride my bike. That was like one of my main pastimes. And so I'd ride down the street for maybe 300 yards and I'd come to the hill. So what do you think I did when I saw the hill? Well, of course, I got off my bike and started crying. Oh, the hill, I don't like hills. No, I started pedaling faster because I had to get up the hill, right? So basically you have two choices when you see the hill in front of you. Get off your bike and start crying, or start pedaling faster. And of course, better solution is pedal faster. And you could say, well, can't I just walk up the hill with my bike? Yeah, you could, but it takes longer. and you'll be complaining the whole way. So this is one of the simplest principles, but one of the best advices anyone could give you is when you see the hill, just start pedaling faster. And don't complain while you're riding up the hill. That is such a big hill. Because if you're going to complain while you ride up the hill, you're probably not going to make it to the top. You're just going to give up because you're making it harder on yourself. Now, in the story of Narada Muni, because the class is continuing, in the story of Narada Muni, this morning's class is continuing. Krishna revealed himself and then disappeared. So what do the acharyas say? They're saying that the only way Narada was going to get pushed from bhava to prema is Krishna had to disappear. And that was going to push him more, right? So why is it going to push him? Because he saw Krishna and he's hankering. So it's that hankering is pushing him. So the acharyas say that Krishna doesn't want to make it easy, because when it's easy, what happens? What happens when anything's easy? Oh, that's so easy. I could do that in my sleep. And then you go to sleep, basically, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? If something's easy, you just like relax, isn't it? I can do it. Hey, Christy, can you play it on the piano? Oh, yeah, I've been playing that since I was 3 years old. And it's like so easy. And she's playing some masterpiece and she's talking and doing her WhatsApp while she's playing. That's easy. Anybody can do it. So she's not trying. But if she actually tried, she could play it better, obviously. So the acharyas say, that's why Krishna sometimes makes it hard, makes it difficult. Because if he doesn't, then we stop trying, we stop doing as much as we could or should. So that's why he makes it difficult. Not because he wants us to suffer. Ha, 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 ha. I'm going to put a big boulder in front of you and you're going to have to climb over it and it's going to take you all day to figure out how to do it. Ha, ha, ha. This is how I have fun, making my devotees suffer. No, it's not like that at all. It's like, my devotee needs this boulder in front of them because they're getting so lazy and they're complaining so much and they're not trying. So that's basically the idea of Krishna kind of putting Narada in this position like, well, that was good. I got to see you. You know, I was meditating. Everything's going fine. All of a sudden, you're not here. And now you're telling me, I'm not going to see you in this lifetime. And Krishna's saying, you have to pay the price. That was just like a free ticket, you know, for however long you got the darshan. But now you're going to have to actually pay for the darshan. So Prabhupada writes about this in Bhagavatam. And he says Krishna doesn't like to see a devotee casual. I guess he doesn't like Southern California devotees because they're very casual. No, he doesn't like to see it when you take it casually, right? And then one time Prabhupada said something which I'm sure could be easily misunderstood. He said, Prabhupada, what makes you happy? He said, I'm happy when I see you struggling, you know. And if you told that to some person on the street, they'd think, what kind of spiritual master is that? You know, it's like sadistic. He likes to see his disciples suffering. What did Prabhupada mean? Struggling. Yeah. That means I like it. I like it when I see that you're trying to go further in your bhakti. You're trying to do your best. So the point of this introductory discussion to today's class was we're all somewhat dissatisfied. We've proven this already. We're somewhat dissatisfied with our standing in devotional service. We'd like to be more advanced, but a lot of us who are not satisfied are not doing everything we could to be advanced. That's the paradox, isn't it? You agree? that's a huge paradox, isn't it? It's like you're complaining you're overweight, but all you do is eat potato chips and pizza and ice cream. It's like, and everyone's looking at you. It's like, why are you complaining? If I ate like that, I would look like a tank. You're doing pretty good. So it's just like that. We're complaining that we're not advanced, and we may be eating tubs of ice cream. Why am I not Krishna conscious? Well, what time did you get up? Whoa, actually, I got up at 10 o'clock. How many rounds you chanted? Well, I'm going to save them for 10 o'clock tonight. Did you read anything? Well, I don't have time to read. Did you see your deities? Oh, for a nanosecond, I did. Yeah, it's like, but I'm so angry at Krishna because I'm not Krishna conscious. Like, okay, we need to talk. There's something wrong with this picture here, right? Isn't it? Have you seen that? Have you done that yourself? Have you seen others do that? Yeah. So that is, in my personal experience, that is just the simple idea of whatever situation I'm in, thinking, no matter how bad it is, how can I maximize it as best as possible? It may not be as good as we want it to be, but as best that I can make it within that situation. That has to be the mindset. And Krishna will say, yes, yes, I'm going to give you mercy because you're trying, right? And it's not always that mercy comes because you do things well. It often comes just because you're trying. You could be falling on your face. You ever try to distribute books? Like if you're an introvert and you don't, when you see people, you run inside the store and, go to the bathroom so you don't have to talk to anybody. And then your temple president says, here's a book bag. You're like, ah! And you go out and you approach them. Excuse me, sir, you don't want this book, do you? And, that's your, you ever seen a devotee do that? Sometimes they did that like that. They didn't want to be out there. And this one devotee, he actually, it's a true story. He went out and said, they just told me to come out here and do this. I just shaved my head. I don't even know what I'm doing. You don't want this book? And he goes, I've been looking for this book for the last 100 lifetimes. True story. So there's another story. The devotee went out all day. The Krishna books. He distributed one book in 8 hours. He was coming back because he had so much wanted to distribute a whole box. He had 15 left in his box. He was crying, Krishna, Krishna. True story. On his way back to the temple, I don't know the details, someone bought the 15 Krishna books. Yeah. So, I'm sure you all have this experience. It's not always, you put out some YouTube thing, you said some funny joke, and all of a sudden, Nadia, did you go on YouTube? You got 800,000 hits, views. I go, what for? For that story. You go, that stupid story? My grandmother told me that. I don't think anybody was, no, you have 800. It's like, so sometimes mercy is like that. It's not always proportionate to the result you get because Krishna sees the effort. And as I've often said, the harder it gets, the more mercy you get because Krishna sees you're tolerating obstacles, so you get more mercy. A lot of times, some people have not in the past been so nice to me. And you see, I don't get upset. And a lot of times I think, well, if this is what I have to tolerate to do my service, then I'll just get more mercy because it is painful, obviously. But Krishna will appreciate that I will tolerate the pain to do the service. I won't give up. So sometimes I think that way. And it's almost like, yeah, well, it's actually good. It's just, more bonus points that I can show my devotion, the more difficult things are. So that's the idea. So we have some commentaries here by the, let me read what you said. So hard to move this. Call up Zoom and tell them to chat. It doesn't move easy. So we have a comment here. The last couple of days. This is from Tanya. Such an interesting topic. Last couple of days, I was wondering how come in our scriptures and stories about great Vaishnavas, there are so many samples of completely degraded people becoming perfect saints instantly. Sounds quite fairy tale-ish, and I compare it with my experience. The reason is to show you it's possible. There's no guarantees. Results may vary, right? Buy this cream, your hair will grow overnight. You'll have long hair down to your knees, right? Results may vary. This is not hair growing cream, don't worry. Although I could use a Sika, this is sunscreen, but something like that, you know. I could see one of these redfix going, look at Mahatma's using hair growing cream, right? He's lost his mind. I have to be careful, as you know, but I have to like cover myself, right? So results may vary, but those stories are there to show that it is possible. Not to make you cry that you're not one of them, but at least to show us that maybe more is possible than what we're getting right now, right? And also to show us that you don't always know when you're going to hit this big hike in your, yes. So that can happen. And you never know when you're going to get mercy, right? Yeah, I froze. Those were ecstatic symptoms you saw. Although freezing is not one of the 8 symptoms. I don't think. Being stunned is one. Yeah, okay, freezing, stunned. Being stunned is one of the 8 ecstatic symptoms. Okay, so I think Nadia, are we ready?
Yes, Maharaj, just a moment.
Oh, we have a comment here. You're talking about some inspiring stories in the same situation. Happened to me when I was distributing books in Mayapur. I sold only 1 japa book. By the end of the day, I was almost crying. But in the last moment, when Prabhu came and bought something for 2,000 rupees. Okay, the conclusion is when you go on Sankirtan, cry as much as possible. That's the best technique. So we are now on verse number 2. This is the 3rd section, correct? Verse 2, verse 1 we did just on Wednesday, is that correct?
Yes, Maharaj.
I think we did it for 2 days, right? Yeah, okay. Gopinath Purechi Mayara Pere Dhana Dhara Sutta Gireche Amare Kamate Rekeche Jere. Purechi, I have fallen, Mayara Pere, Moyara Pere, into the perils of material illusion, Dana wealth, Dara wife, Sutta and sons, Gireche Amare, have surrounded me, Kamate, absorbed in lust. Rekeche Jere is wasting me away. So this is real lamentation here. Oh Gopinath, I have fallen into the perils of material illusion. Wealth, wife, and sons have surrounded me, and I'm wasting away from lust. And of course, you're thinking, yeah, but your son is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, so how could you say that? So, of course, we know that he's portraying the consciousness of ordinary people. And the expression here, as is this whole song, is an expression of weakness. Like, you ever slip on a banana peel? It's kind of like or you ever slip on something and you tell yourself, you're such a klutz, you know what a klutz is? Gerda, you know what a klutz is? It's a person who's like always banging into things, falling over, stubbing their toe, breaking their leg. That's a klutz. They do sports and you know, like they'll kick the ball in the wrong goal. You know, it's just like, yeah. So that's kind of the kind of his mood is like, by my consciousness, by my nature, I'm just going to do the wrong thing. I'm just going to get attached. Like I think that's obvious, right? By the nature, if you don't do anything about Maya, she'll do everything about you. So he's saying, okay, by the nature of my consciousness, taking the mood of materialistic person, by the nature of my consciousness and the nature of Maya, pretty much I'm finished. I'm like, it's like D-Day for me. You know, it's hopeless. So, so he's, I mean, what we can learn from this is the other day I was saying sometimes you like nobody understands you and you just want to tell Krishna. Well, that's what he's doing here. It's like, you know, like what Tanya's experiencing, what Gerda's experiencing, what Anuradha's experiencing, what Krista, especially what Krista is experiencing, not so good right now. What Nadi's experiencing, what Tosha, we don't know. I mean, they can tell us, but it's like, you know, unless you have been through exactly what they're through, you don't know. And even if you've been through it, if you're not going through it now, you don't feel it the way they feel it. So we all know we're traversing this world with our own experience. And you know, like today you have a headache, and you know, nobody knows you have a headache. Nobody feels your headache, even though we feel sad that you have a headache, we don't feel it, right? So this is one of the aspects of prayer where you're looking at your life, you're looking at how it ended up, you don't like it, you feel powerless to do anything about it, and you're just telling Krishna, this is it, this is where I'm at. Of course, you're telling him these things because you're going to pray to get out of it, but you're saying, you're justifying the prayer by saying, look at this, look at me, I'm a mess. And you know, I don't know how to get out of this mess without your mercy. So that's kind of the idea. So it has that mood of prayer, but it also has the mood of like, of qualifying you for mercy, right? Like, okay, you're going to give me mercy, I at least have to show you my qualification. And what is my qualification? All my failures. And so here's my list of failures. And not only failures, but like without your mercy, it's just going to continue. I'll fail forever. I'll do the same thing over because I'm being controlled by Maya. And I really don't have much to say about it because I'm so weak. So that's the idea. As you'll see, as you study Prabhupada's books more and more, you'll see this theme that humility and helplessness, it's the same thing that they just said, where there's humility, there's always this feeling of helplessness. And it is really a foundational principle of bhakti. And the foundational principle of atheism is, as we say in America, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. You have a saying like that in Spanish? It's basically, you do everything yourself. You're a self-made person, right? I don't need anybody's help. Do it myself. I'm a self-made man. That's the materialistic mentality, which is, of course, it's entirely opposite from what he's saying, isn't it? He's saying, on my own, look what I've done. I'm just attached. I'm surrounded by my attachments. If you leave me alone, that's what's going to happen. I'll just become attached, materialist. So I need your help. to rise above this. So that's, I think it's easy to understand how this is an essential, fundamental state of consciousness for the pure devotee, isn't it? Because it's this, I am nothing without you. And the material consciousness is, I'm everything, and I can let you in my house if you want. I'll give a donation at the church just because, that's the right thing to do. But basically, I'm everything. I do it all. Right? I've often said that in India, you'll find if someone's successful and you glorify them, they'll put their hands up in the air and they'll say Bhagavan. That's just like spontaneously. Oh, Mahatma Prabhu, you're so good at this. Bhagavan. In recognition, if I am good at anything, he's good, and he's just giving me the good to be good. And it's very natural for them to do it. It's very spontaneous because that's how they've been raised, to see the world and see themselves. And the materialistic person, no, he said, yeah, it was hard work. I did it. I persevered. I was determined. And if you persevere and you work hard, you can also be successful. Well, where was God in that? I don't know where God was in that. I just did it myself. And it seems that way, right? You take a piece of land, that's God's land. It's growing with weeds and everything, and then you landscape it and say, look what I did. So sometimes we think, yeah, I did it all. Yeah, well, great. Where did you get the seeds and the soil and all that? So that's the mood of this one. So let's read the next one. Or is there a comment?
There are 2 questions.
Okay. Tanya says, I trip over my own feet. Okay. You are a bona fide klutz, Tanya. What happens in kirtan? You dance and fall over? So I have a question from Jennifer. What do you recommend that we do for advancement? What's the minimum for a single mom with a young child? Well, since I don't know you and know your situation, but in general, I would say, if you can wake up a few hours before your child's going to wake up, or more than a few, as many hours as you can get up before your child gets up, and just do sadhana, reading, chanting, writing, praying. That will be the best thing. And associating with devotees, I don't know now the situation, if you can get much association, that's a problem. But associating with devotees as much as possible. Some of us are resigned to digital sangha. Digital sangha is better than no sangha, but in-person sangha is better, I think, generally. Although if you associate with very advanced devotees online, that is powerful also. So if you need more specifics, I would have to talk to you, or you'd have to tell me your specific situation. Write me, and then I could give more specifics. Depends how old your child is. Depends if you work or not, like so many things. But that advice to get up early as possible before your children get up is always good advice. Isn't it? So we have another question. Why do we get mercy if we do not deserve it? If it is causeless? Yeah. Well, that's the meaning of causeless. If you deserved it, there would be a cause. If you get it and you don't deserve it, then there's no cause. It's just, well, you can say the cause. One devotee said, the mercy is the cause of mercy. It's the heart of the Vaishnava who wants to give the mercy. So when it is caused by his mercy in that sense, but it's not caused by our qualification. So, as we've spoken before, the cause now becomes the lack of qualification, right? But when we speak of it philosophically, we say causeless. We say there's nothing material you can do to cause it. Tanya has a PhD. She speaks 20 languages. It's not going to be necessarily an advantage for pure bhakti. It could be an advantage because then she could learn Sanskrit and that would help her. But in and of itself, even learning Sanskrit is not going to be the cause of her pure devotional service. How many languages you know, Tanya? 5? You look like someone who knows lots of languages. Okay. I have a joke. Can I tell a joke? I have your permission. They say, if someone speaks 2 languages, they're called bilingual, right? In English, it's called bilingual. If they speak 3 languages, they're called trilingual. I guess 4 languages speak quadlingual. 5, what would 5 languages be? I don't know. I don't know. And what are they called if they speak 1 language? American. I think all of you that I'm looking at speak at least 2 or 3 languages, right? Isn't it? At least 2, because none of you that I'm seeing are from America, so you have to at least speak 2. Yeah. So there's an interesting commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he says, where Krishna gives mercy is where Krishna's devotee directs Krishna to give mercy. So let's say a devotee is praying for somebody, then Krishna will reciprocate. It's kind of like the devotee, like Krishna's asking the devotee, where should I give mercy? And the devotee says, we'll give it there. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he prayed for his father. So Lord Nrsimhadev says, okay, we give mercy to his father because that's what he wants. Right? That's what Prahlad asked for when Lord Nrsimhadev said, ask for something, I want to give you something. He said, I don't want anything. He said, please ask. Okay. Deliver my father. So Lord Nrsimhadev, he did that. So causeless mercy means maybe Hiranyakashipu, not maybe, he didn't deserve the mercy, but because Prahlad Maharaj wanted to give it, then the Lord said, okay, we'll give it. And so Prabhupada wanted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted Krishna consciousness spread. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta tried to do it, spread it all over the world. He asked Prabhupada, he asked all his disciples, come to the West and do it. So by their desire, we now have mercy because Prabhupada comes and says, Krishna, give them mercy. Like Prabhupada used to say, I'm always praying. A lot of times he would sign his letters, or in his letters, he would say, I'm always praying for your advancement. Wow, wouldn't you like to get a letter from Prabhupada that said, I'm always praying for your advancement? Wouldn't that be nice? Yes? So your ever well wisher. So that's the idea. So it's not that we deserve it. If you want to talk about qualification or deserving, then you have to talk about it more in terms of being smart enough to take the mercy. Then that becomes your qualification. Not like you had previous qualification to come in touch with the mercy, but when you come in touch, then your qualification is be smart enough to take it. Right? And Prabhupada was asked this question, why someone takes it and someone doesn't. He said, someone's intelligent. So being intelligent becomes your qualification. And I've always said that, haven't I? Don't be stupid. How many times have I said that? Don't be stupid. Because Maya makes us quite stupid, doesn't she? You ever feel like that? Maya's made me really stupid. How many times have I said it? Like 10 million, 10 billion. And after you read Prabhupada's books for a while, you don't feel stupid anymore, isn't it? Like you sit down before you read, you feel stupid. Yeah, Maya's making me stupid. My brain isn't working. My intelligence is shut off. Then I read Prabhupada's books and everything starts firing up. Then everything's working again, isn't it? So, and then we say, oh yes, this is good. I should read, I should chant. So by being intelligent, then we do the process. By doing the process, you get the mercy. But it's still causeless because it means we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything to get Prabhupada to come to us. You devotees are from Russia. You didn't do anything to get Prabhupada to go to Russia, except maybe somewhere in your heart of hearts, you had a desire. Of course, most of you weren't alive when Prabhupada came, but in your last life, if you were in Russia, maybe somewhere in your heart of hearts, you had a desire to advance. And Krishna communicated that to Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada said, okay, we're going to Russia. To see some atheistic professor, like, why would he go to Russia to see one atheistic professor? He says, no, we're going to Russia. The people there want Krishna. Okay. So that's how it works. You know, maybe your desire is everything. But I like Prabhupada's statement. It's very clear. What is your qualification to get mercy? Be intelligent enough to take it. Buy this stock. It's $1. By tomorrow, it'll be worth $1 million. Don't be stupid. Buy it. You know, like, well, let me think about it. The dollar, that's a lot of money. I could lose $1. I don't know if I want it. Oh, just buy it, you know, like that, you know. Okay, I was smart, you know. Now we see you tomorrow. You're driving a Rolls Royce. You just, you know, show us your new mansion. I'm like, what happened? Well, I was smart enough to buy this stock. It was only $1. Something like that, right? Isn't it? So that's Krishna consciousness. Be smart enough. Don't be dumb. There's enough dumb people in the world. We don't need any more. Isn't it? I mean, you know, some of the smartest people with the highest IQ spiritually are not very smart, isn't it? Yeah, so we don't need any more. We need smart people. So Nadi says, during the Soviet times, people had such a strong desire for spirituality, but all the spiritual people were killed at the time. Hare Krishna. What a bad place to be. Material world. Wow. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll read the next verse. We're on verse 3, is that correct? Gopinath mana je pagala mora na mone shushan shada achetan vishayano yeche ghora or gor, because they don't pronounce the A unless it's a long A. Mon je pagal mor na mane sashan sada achetun vishay ro yeche gor. I'll read the synonyms, gives us some insight. Mana, the mind, J, which, Pagala is crazy. You already knew that. Mora, my, na mane, it does not care. Sashan, for any authority, sada, achetan, always senseless. Vishaye, in worldly affairs. Uroyeche has remained, Gora, the dark pit. Oh, Gopinath, my mind is crazy and disregards all authority. It is always senseless and stays in the dark pit of worldly affairs. Now, you already know all this because you have to deal with this every day. But again, it's the same mood. Now, you could read this and think, well, it seems like he's making excuses for his fallen condition. And we just said, don't make excuses. But he's just saying, this is my conditioning. I don't want to give into my conditioning. Please help me. It's not like I'm just going to stand by and watch myself drown. But I do have weights on my feet. I am going down pretty fast. And I'm trying, but to get these weights off. But I don't know if I can get them off fast enough before I hit the bottom of the ocean and die. So can you help me get them off? That's the move. Not like, I'm not going to try, I can't do anything. It's just, again, it's a plea for welfare. You go to the welfare department. I have no place to live. I have no money. My husband is abusing me. He's an alcoholic. My kids are drug addicts. You go down the list. The worse it is, the more chance you'll get the welfare, at least in America. I don't know about your country. Your country, they'll go, too bad, right? Get out of Russia, come to America. Well, Germany's better. I think Germany's better. Holland is good, right, Toshan, for welfare? Because he has to pay like half his money he makes, he has to pay in taxes, right? He's laughing, going, the government doesn't know how much I make. I'd never tell them. They take too much. That was Chanakya Pandit said that. You hide your money from the government, they'll take it all from you. Isn't that funny? Chanakya is a Brahmin and he said that. All right, and we get a front pages. Hare Krishna say, don't pay your taxes. Well, anyway, that's a topic for another class. But so this song, as we're seeing this song unfold, he's giving a list of disqualifications, which then become the list of qualifications to get mercy, right? More disqualifications you have, the more qualified you are for mercy. So if you come to me and say, my mind is, what is it? My mind is crazy. I don't care for an authority. I'm always senseless. I'm in the dark. And you give me all these excuses, then I'll say, congratulations. You are well suited to get mercy. That'll be my answer to you. Your number one, I have this, I have that. Okay, well, let's take you to the front of the welfare line. You should be first. That's the idea. So Krishna Karshani has a question or comment or both. You said that if we want to cross the hill, we should pedal faster. What if we have no strength to pedal faster? And we prefer to cross the hill? Just go next to the bike. My point is that if we pedal too fast, not being ready, we will maybe cross the hill, but most probably we will not. We will be discouraged for bike riding. If we do too much, we will be discouraged for bike riding if we do too much in KC, not being ready. We will end up leaving. Saw too many people who ended up leaving being so enthusiastic at the beginning. I think they were too enthusiastic. Okay, just ride up the hill, but don't be too enthusiastic. The real problem, I know what you're saying. I think the problem is, I don't necessarily think it's a problem being too enthusiastic. I think it's just a problem not being enthusiastic 2 years later at all, And I'm not sure being too enthusiastic was the problem of not being enthusiastic later, but maybe the problem was expectations. That could also be, part of it. I mean, it may be true what you say in some cases, but I think some cases it's just, obviously they didn't maintain the enthusiasm, but expectations can kill you. I'm going really fast for the first few years and then I hit the top. I can't get beyond and it becomes discouraging. Or as you say, I was like too enthusiastic, so I have to come back down to what's more real for me. And then I get discouraged and I lose my enthusiasm. That I think if you adjust your expectations to reality, you can maintain enthusiasm. And if your expectations are not realistic, you can get completely frustrated, isn't it? It's one of the most dangerous things is to have expectations that are unreal, because you'll always be frustrated because they're not real. But perhaps Krishna Karshani, if when we joined, someone told us, he said, okay, sit down, I want to tell you something. For the first 3 years, for the first 3 to 7 years, you're going to be really enthusiastic. Then somewhere between 3 and 7 years, reality will sink in and you realize you are a total idiot and you have no spiritual life and you are just pretending. But it's a good thing you were enthusiastic. No, we won't say it exactly like that, but we'll give them some reality check. So you're going to hit a certain point and you're going to realize that you can't do that, what you were doing as that brahmachari, brahmacharini. You're going to have to like land on the ground because you were kind of flying on special mercy, but you know, you got to land at some point. So if we help people understand that, then when they landed, they would think, okay, that's normal. I was told that was going to happen. And then we instruct them, okay, this is how you deal with this stage of life and remain enthusiastic. It's going to be different. Then I think we would be okay. But a lot of people kind of crash landed, isn't it? They were like super enthusiastic and then, and nobody told them how to land. So they just crashed. And that was the last we saw of them. Whereas if we teach them how to land, then they could land and keep going, not as fast, but they would realize, yeah, well, that was a good ride. You know, I was young and enthusiastic, but now I have to fulfill my desires. I have to be realistic. To me, that's the real challenge, is that second stage, you know. The first stage, naturally, everyone's enthusiastic. If you make it to the third stage, when you're old and gray and decrepit, there's really nothing left to do but be Krishna conscious, because you can't really enjoy anything anyway. And everything else looks kind of stupid. It's that middle part that's the tough part. So I think that's really where we have failed devotees, that middle stage, isn't it? To kind of make them think they're going to fly high forever. And when they crash, they don't know what to do. So I think that's in my mind, that's where the energy needs to be put more into. In our own life and the life of other devotees, helping them in that middle stage. Okay, when you finally land, let me help you land, and let me help you figure out where to land and what you're going to do when you land. And a lot of that's absent. We don't show them how to land, where to land, and what to do after they land. So they land up in the hospital because they crashed. You agree, Krishna Karshan? If you don't agree, I won't like you. Yeah. Okay, so then Krishna Karshan is saying, how do we know if we're real? What we have seen is for very young devotees, it's often very difficult to know it's real because they don't have enough years of experience. They only have, 6 months or a year. So they have, but, open your eyes and look at the old devotees and think, I'm probably going to end up like them, So a lot of times in understanding what's real, it becomes revealed through experience, but sometimes it's too late and you've made too many mistakes. I would suggest getting help from senior devotees to guide you in helping you understand what you need to do in that middle stage, how to land your plane and where you should land it and what you should do when you get out of it. Sometimes you just can't know, you don't have enough experience. And I think one of my services, unknown to me, but if I reflect on it, I think one of my services is doing this. It's just, finding devotees flying in the sky, and I'm going, hey, Prabhu, could you come down a little bit? Because that's not real for you. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, it's like you belong down here. And then I explain why, and then they understand. I go, oh, thank you, thank you. No one ever told me that. They were all like trying to push me to the moon. I'm like, yeah, that's a high place to fall from. You're going to crash like crazy and break every bone in your body. Where, come down, just land smoothly. Isn't it? Have you seen that? I mean, if you were to analyze my lectures, wouldn't you say that's what I'm doing? Kind of like giving reality checks all the time. And we've talked about this also in classes where I said, you hear such high things in Bhagavatam, but you don't always acknowledge that that's not where you're at, isn't it? You just hear these high things and think, okay, I gotta go for that, as opposed to that's the long end goal, Now, how can I get one step closer? Instead of thinking, how can I get one step closer? We think, how can I get there tomorrow? That becomes the problem. A bigger problem is, I think I'm actually there when tomorrow comes. That's the big problem, isn't it? And I start acting like I'm there when I'm not. So we should be enthusiastic in every situation, but the nature of the enthusiasm and the degree of it will slightly alter according to our position in life and what we're enthusiastic about. Just like you may have distributed books for 10 years, and you're like super enthusiastic. And then you get married and you have children. So your enthusiasm is going to change. You're going to be enthusiastic about your house, about your kids, your family, and all that. So it's not that you have to give up your enthusiasm because you're not enthusiastic for book distribution because you can't do it. You just have to transfer it to something else. That's what you're doing in that situation. That's what you're doing now. So that's where you're enthusiastic, right? Don't ever lose your enthusiasm. That's all I can say. Whatever you're doing, don't lose it. Find something to be enthusiastic about. If you can't become enthusiastic about being a pure devotee, then be enthusiastic about being a 50% pure devotee, or a 25%, or an 18.5%, whatever, but still be enthusiastic, right? Change your expectations of what you expect of yourself, so it doesn't depress you, because you all know you can do the same thing and be excited about it or completely frustrated about it, just depending on what you expect, isn't it? If you expect yourself to do something you could never do, and then you don't do it, you get discouraged. Or if you realistically say, I can't do that, then you do what you can do. And you're like, yeah, I did what I could do. I did it perfectly. I did it well. You're happy. So it's a shame to be depressed about something that you could be enthusiastic about, isn't it? It's a bad strategy, don't you think? Sometimes you get up late today. Oh, I'm so depressed. At least you got up. Some people don't even get out of bed, So, there's always different ways of looking at it, right? Isn't it? You're not trying to, I think we have to make a distinction between rationalizing and being realistic. So if I'm rationalizing, it means I could be better. But if I'm realistic, it means I've tried, it's like I'm trying to lift weights. I can only lift 30 kgs. I've tried for 10 years. That's all I can do. I don't know what it is. I can't pretend that I can lift 50 or 100. I can't. Okay, that's realistic. Okay, so I go to the gym, there's 30. I'm like excited, I can do 30. Wow, I'm amazing. 30, that's 1 kg better than 29. I'm doing good. So you're doing the same thing, better be enthusiastic, right? If you're trying your best. If it's just a rationalization, you could do 50. Yeah, then be depressed and use that depression to generate some energy to do better. Then it's okay. That's good depression. There's good depression and there's bad depression. Okay. Christy says, shouldn't we take advantage of the period of enthusiasm instead of questioning it? Seems that if we keep questioning it, it is like pulling unnecessary brakes. I think you have to do both. It's actually, it's not a problem to be enthusiastic, and all that early enthusiasm is not a problem. The problem is thinking you're more Krishna conscious than you are and making bad judgments on the basis of that. That's the problem. It's like the problem is Christy's, let's say she's like ecstatic, Harinam book distribution. She's like, I'm going to do this. the rest of my life. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. I just want to do this the rest of my life. We're like, yeah, right. How many times have I heard women say that the last 50 years? Like 4,826,000. And you're different. So that becomes a problem, right? So some senior has to say, well, you can continue doing this, but just give you a reality check. You have a body that likes to reproduce, and like you probably going to kick in, in a few years, and oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, well, if it happens, don't worry. You're okay. It's not the end of the world. It's like, so so she's like, okay, if it kicks in, it kicks in, then, if you're right, you're right. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So one day she's out on Sankirtan and there's this mother coming with her two kids in a stroller. And then all of a sudden Christy's like, they're so cute. I want to have some of those, And she's like, what has overcome me? I was doing book distribution every day for 10 years. I never thought of that. How many women have I seen that happen to? Like 4,867,322. And that was just yesterday. So, as as long as you understand it, then you're okay. Otherwise, Christy comes home and says, I'm the most fallen. I'm the worst thing. I can't believe it. I'm on Sankirtan and I'm thinking about getting married. What is wrong with me? I just kill myself. How many times have I seen that? 8,627,876 times. And when I see that, I'm like, I just want to take that person and like cry with them. I said, this is like the worst thing. You didn't do anything wrong. You're just like normal, This is just normal. It's just a stage. That is the most depressing. The most depressing thing for me is when a devotee shares with me a normal desire and they're depressed. It's like, there's nothing more depressing to me than that. It's like, I want to get married. I don't know what's wrong with me. I have to go see my psychiatrist. I don't know, to beat myself up. I'm like, what are you talking about? Is that what we've created in the Hare Krishna movement? People who want to, go into depression from being like normal? That's sad, isn't it? You agree? Yeah, they're like a bunch of nuts, like we took a lot of healthy young boys and girls and made them crazy, in 6 months, they're all nutty. Isn't it? I think a lot of you kind of missed that because you never lived in temples. So you only became half crazy, not fully. But that's a risk living in a temple. Of course, if you have good leaders and they guide you, you won't become crazy because they'll explain all these things to you, right? But if you don't, they could be the ones causing the problem. Why do you want to get married? What's wrong with you? Just distribute books the rest of your life. Are you crazy? Why you want to it's just a bag of stool, You want to marry a bag of stool? You could carry a book bag. Which one do you want? What's wrong with you? So did we ever get preached like that? Yeah, 8,678,427,000 times. Yeah, we got preached that way. So naturally you would feel guilty when your human side creeps up on you. So I think you can take advantage of your enthusiasm, and because a lot of men that I know, they know they're going to get married. They know they have to. They're fully aware of it, but they're young and they're distributing books and they say, while I'm young and I don't really feel like I need to, let me take advantage of this and just like not think about it. That's perfect. Why not? They're just traveling, they're happy. And they know someday they'll go on to have a family, but until then, why think about it? And when it comes up and when it's time, it's like, okay, now it's time. So I think you can balance both. Does that make sense? Okay, what else we got? Maybe a part of the problem is also us confusing tapasya with KC. The sheer amount of tapasya doesn't really guarantee we'll be growing KC, and it can even be destructive, and we can grow in KC through practices which we classify as tapasya because they are pleasurable. Yeah, that's true. We're not after tapasya, we're after pleasing Krishna. Okay, should we change the name of the class, Nadia, to being depressed for being normal? Should that be the class? Can we change the name or is it too late?
Now it's too late, but I can do it after the class.
Okay. Okay, what else we got here? Anil. Hare Krishna, Dandavad. You can please help me as how I can understand where I am, my natural position, so my expectations are right. I make gradual progress instead of going back and forth. I think the word here is honesty. Like, I may be super enthusiastic. I may be fired up, but it doesn't mean necessarily I'm very advanced because I have so many desires and I'm still envious and jealous. So it's being self-aware and understanding who I am, what's going on inside of me in a realistic way, not being discouraged, but just real, and not trying to lift 100 pounds when you can only lift 50. That's the main thing. I mean, sometimes it's going to take a discussion with people who know you well. And you're going to say, I think I'm going to do this. And they're going to go, no, you're not. You're not even, light years away from doing that now. That story I've told a million times. When I wrote Prabhupada, I said, we could start a band, become famous and spread Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada's like, right, you'll never be famous. It's just like slashed it. And then Prabhupada used the word phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria is an English word which means kind of like a pipe dream. Pipe dream? You're dreaming. It's never going to happen. So I write Prabhupada, we're going to form a famous band and we'll spread Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada saying, dream on, Prabhu. Not going to happen. So, and then Prabhupada basically said, and if it did happen, you would crash and burn. You'd never make it. You would never make it in that situation. So that's a reality check. I'm not able to handle that position in a healthy way. So sometimes you need senior people just to talk to you and say, you can't do that. You're not strong enough, or that's not your nature. Right? How many sannyasis got married? Do you know how many? More than made it. More than state sannyas got married. So that was a misjudgment. They didn't understand themselves. You could say even they were sincere. They thought they could do it, but maybe there was some dishonesty internally about who they were. So these are things we have to be really honest and truthful. And some people lie about how they lie to themselves. I'll say that again in case you didn't get it. Some people lie about how they lie to themselves. So you might be lying to yourself and then lying to yourself saying that you don't lie to yourself. Did you understand? Christina, did you understand? I lie to myself and then I tell myself that I don't lie to myself. So I'm lying to myself about lying to myself. You understand? A little bit. Does that make sense? It's kind of an interesting idea, right? So yeah, that's required, some kind of honesty. The other problem is, it's like you get some idea in your mind of how you should be, and then you're not like that. And you can't face the fact that you're not like that. So you try to fake it. And you can't tell yourself you're actually like this, because like this to you is horrible. You've been defeated. So you want to pretend in your mind you're like this, because you have to admit you're like this. It's depressing. So you kind of just think you're like this. It makes you feel good. Right? What do you think? Does that make sense? So that's part of the problem. If you're made to feel bad because of who you are, then you'll never want to admit who you are. You always want to pretend to be somebody else. And so if you're preached to be someone you're not, it's unhealthy, isn't it? Yes? Yes or yes? True or true? Good or great? So one of the problems that we have, and which you've probably noticed because we talk about these things a lot, is that it's not the fault of the devotee, it's the fault of how they're preached to. Because if I preach to you in such a way that you feel bad to be you, you'll never want to be you. And if you ever are, and if you ever realize that you are you, you will just become extremely discouraged about who you are, right? So you will try to avoid being you or run away from you or shut down or something so you don't have to be you. Now, that is like my joke, which I got in trouble for saying once, but I'll say it again. Next to every Hare Krishna temple, there needs to be a mental hospital. Because if we preach that way, everyone's going to need psychotherapy. Isn't it? I guess it's not funny, it's true, right? So no, if you preach to people that there's something bad about being who you are, that's not very healthy. We preach, you are who you are and you can be better, and here's a process to be better. But don't kill yourself because you're not better yet. Just, you are who you are. And as we talked about, I think on Wednesday, you are who you are. You can't change that. That's who you are today, right? Can you change who you are right now? I don't think so. Can you change it tomorrow? You could. Could you be better tomorrow? Yeah. But right now, in this very second, can you be any different than you are right now? No, this is who you are. So if I preach to you and make you feel like there's something wrong with that, that's going to drive you crazy, right? So I see a lot of devotees are very confused, not because they're not smart. They're confused because they're being preached things that don't make sense to them. That's why they're confused. It just doesn't make sense. But what do I know? I'm a new devotee and he's or she's an older devotee. So it gets confusing because it doesn't feel right. This one devotee said something I loved. Someone came and gave a class. Like a sannyasi came and gave a class, and it was totally Shastra. It's just like one shloka after another, one story, one purport, like just 1, 2, 3, 4. And I didn't like the class. There's like something wrong with it. It was like, it wasn't relating, or the mood was wrong or something. And I said to this devotee, I said, how did you like the class? And she said, it sounds right and feels wrong. And I said, that's it. I couldn't put it into words, but that was it. It sounds right and feels wrong. So sometimes you'll hear a class and you'll leave the class and you'll kind of not feel right. You ever have that experience? Like something like that? Yeah. You know why you feel that way? Probably in most cases, because it was what was said was maybe inappropriate for you, or maybe you misunderstood it, or in some way you got the wrong message. Either intended or not intended, the message was not taken in the right way. So if it sounds right, feels wrong, it could be wrong, or it could be taken wrong. And therefore it could make you feel like something's wrong with you. Hare Krishna. Christy said, how about killing yourself for not following the process? Not allowed. Then you'll be guilty of killing a Brahmin. Suicide is not recommended. You can kill your material self, but not your body. Kill your Maya. Christy says, we were saved when you came into our lives and brought the reality check. Okay. Put that on my tombstone. He gave us a reality check. We didn't like the reality check. We ran away. We screamed. We cried. We finally accepted. There were times when classes felt wrong to me, but older devotees were ecstatic about it. Yeah, that could be a problem also. That could be another layer of problems. Okay, I don't want to generalize. Maybe you were the problem, but it could be a mentality, that was just like left over from another yuga. It kind of didn't work and everybody left, and there's only the 3 people that like that mentality stayed. And they're going to make sure everyone else leaves who doesn't like that mentality by giving those classes. Berating yourself for being around for 40 years and not surrendering to the process that you know is essential. At least you're still around. Give yourself credit. At least you're trying. If you weren't trying, you wouldn't be in this class right now, right? So, there's always some lights of positivity somewhere, right? Isn't it? You have to, I wish I could read my offering to Prabhupada to you that I wrote this year, because this is what it's about. Exactly, this topic. And I think you'd really love to hear it, but I don't want to read it before it's offered to him, because I feel like it's giving out a present to someone, to other people before he gets it. But this is what it's about. And yes, we'll always feel we need more help. We pedal up the hill crying. Okay, so I think we finished. Have we finished? Yeah. We're all different, so you may have different strategies to get up the hill, but the hills will be there, that's for sure. And if you're going to cry with every hill, then not good. We still need to be enthusiastic, but enthusiastic for the right reason. Correct? Prabhupada said, always be enthusiastic. So my philosophy is, no matter what, figure out how to be enthusiastic. Even if you can't be, because it's so important. So figure out how to be. That is very important, right? Okay, so now we're going to end this class.
Maharaj, I think that Sharadya Rasa has a question.
Okay,
Because she
you want to
raised
ask
her
it?
hand.
Okay. You want to ask it?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much for the class. I have like a specific question. You mentioned that you've seen over the years so many ladies might initially, when they're young, feel that they don't want to get married, they just want to do service, but then that is often not realistic in the long term. Now my question is, I've also seen this, and what I've seen increasingly over the last couple of years is that young ladies will make that statement. And because I know them, I know that it's because, they've often come from very dysfunctional families. So they've had very, very bad experiences of relationships. And I also know, because I know them well, I also know that emotionally, they're probably not ready for a relationship.
Yeah.
So how do you then advise them? Because on the one hand, I acknowledge that, because they'll say to me, I don't want a relationship and I'm not ready for it. And anyway, it's just painful.
Yeah.
And that needs to be acknowledged. But on the other hand, it's like in the long term, it will probably be better for them to get into a healthy relationship. So what advice do we give to such young people?
Honestly, send them
Yes,
to Gabriella, because they're traumatized and they need to be healed. Basically, unless a woman is very Krishna conscious and very detached and renounced, if she says she doesn't want to get married, it's because she had a bad experience, either in her family or with a previous relationship, or she saw her parents having problems and so forth, something. So she needs to heal that. That's what I would say. That's where it's coming from. Yes? I mean, I'm not a psychologist, although you might think I am, but I that's my understanding, that if something is natural, okay. You know the story. It's so funny. They were talking about, with Prabhupada, they were talking about sex, the sex attraction and so forth. And one devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, I have no sex desire. Now, is that natural or unnatural? It's unnatural, right? Like, he's 22 years old and he has no sex desire, like, right? He's not Narada Muni. So he's a 22-year-old American to have no sex desire. Something's wrong. So what did Prabhupada say? Go see a doctor. Right? So, if someone says, a 22-year-old says, I don't have a sex desire, the first thing you think is, this guy's crazy, or he's liberated, or he's got a disease, isn't it? So when devotees say things which are so unnatural, then we know, okay, there's a problem there, unless you're liberated. And I go through this all the time because I have many, many, many female disciples who say, I can't think about marriage, I can't think about men. It's like, hello, obvious trauma. So we go back and start asking, and it all comes out. This happened in my family, my mother, this and that. So that's what I would say.